Well, good morning. We appreciate you being here, Ted, especially after your late night and early morning. Had this discussion with you. I don't know how much sleep you got last night, but we'll give you the Cliff Notes version afterwards if you missed out on anything. We do appreciate you being here. We're going to get right into it. We know that we have the potential for some very significant weather events happening this weekend in our community, and because of that, we've invited Alan King and Troy Houtman here to talk about a few issues, and so I'm going to turn it over to them for them to share. So whoever wants to go first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The forecast shows that we could have some significant weather coming our way. The models are varied, so we're not 100% sure what's actually going to happen, but we're preparing for the worst. And that worst would be is if we get some ice accumulations. Some of the models say somewhere around half an inch, some more, closer to 1 inch. And then some winds and the winter mix and that sort of thing. It's the ice that is really concerning for us. So what we have been doing since Monday, we've had all of our trucks out, the brine trucks out, laying brine out onto the streets, trying to get ahead of this as much as possible. We'll probably do that until around 8 o'clock tonight or so, or sometime during the day today when the temperatures just get too cold for practically adding any more brine. But that's what we can do ahead of the event. We'll be monitoring with a small contingent from about midnight until 8 o'clock in the morning Friday, mostly to have the trucks out there in case we've got to do some spot applications and to monitor the weather. We'll be monitoring the forecasts very closely. And if what we expect to happen is Friday, this moves in, we could start seeing some ice accumulations. So we're going to have our trucks out with salt sand mix and try to get out ahead of it as much as possible. What makes it kind of difficult is these events sometimes can happen over a large area fairly quickly. It all of a sudden freezes, and that's one of the most difficult events to respond to, and is the most dangerous for our traveling public until we get out to about our approximately 1,500 lane miles of road for us to get out and put that salt sand mix on. So there will be some exposure for folks until we actually get those streets covered, and we would offer a suggestion that people be cautious, particularly in the early part of that ice part of the event. The other concern we have, and it's not just streets related, is the possibility of this ice coming, forming on branches and it coming down and causing power outages. And so we've got a plan in place to make sure that all of the city's critical facilities like water and sewer treatment plants, pump stations, city hall, and the like have power. We have power generators in case we have loss of power. But also to be able to respond to branches that might come down in the streets. We'll put our greatest attention on the snow and the ice treatment, but as soon as we can, and that could be Sunday, we're going to be out, and if we find that there's a lot of limbs and branches down into the right-of-way, we'll make sure we keep those roads clear, and we depend on our partners with Troy Houtman and the Parks Group to help us do that. And so that's basically the plans that we have for the event. I think the key for us is to be flexible because we don't really know for sure how this is going to unfold. We just need to be prepared and have the people on standby and have the equipment available. So that's my presentation, sir.
Alan, thank you very much. Certainly important information, and can't say enough about encouraging our citizens to evaluate the risk, make your determinations on where your priorities lie. And I can tell you this. My wife and I have already changed our plans for this weekend. We were scheduled to drive up to Kansas City to enjoy the Chiefs playoff game, and we decided that it wasn't worth the risk to take a 3-hour drive under those conditions. And so we encourage folks to truly evaluate the risk, be careful. This could be a very difficult weekend for travelers. Troy, you want to come up and share?
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. My name is Troy Houtman. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation. And there's 3 items I just wanted to cover today. And one is a little bit more general in nature. We really want folks to come out and enjoy our parks in the wintertime. They're still beautiful, but there's a danger there that we want to make sure that people are aware of, and that is ice. We want to make sure that folks don't walk on the frozen ice. We have a lot of water features in our parks, ponds and lakes and streams, and this time of year, they freeze over. But with the temperatures dipping up and down, above and below freezing, we never know what the thickness of that ice is. So one of the big dangers that we have is folks walking onto the ice and falling through the ice, which is not a very good thing. One of the reasons why that happens, though, is a lot of folks walk their dogs off leash, and their dogs end up on the ice. And of course, we all want to make sure we protect our dogs, and what happens? These folks go out onto the ice. So another way that you can really make yourself a little bit safer is as you're walking through the parks is making sure that your dogs are on a leash. But again, never ever walk on any frozen ice, whether it's in our parks or anywhere else in the city. So just be aware of that throughout the winter time. It's not just during this winter storm, but this is a good time to remind people to stay off the frozen ice. A couple other things as well is that we're going to be assessing the weather and finding out whether or not we're going to close our recreation centers. So we'll be working with Alan and some other folks in regards to the forecasts, and we'll get that information out through our normal channels with the media. And there might be a possibility that we'll be closing our recreation centers to make sure people stay safe. And the last item was in regards to our role with forestry in cleaning up the limbs that actually fall. During this time of year, the limbs are dry, and then they get really heavy with ice, and they fall onto the ground. If you find something that is blocking the roadway, a good way to let us know is going through our regular call-ins and letting us know where these limbs are. And we'll be working with Public Works to clear these limbs and making sure that the roads are safe. So those were the three items I just wanted to cover, and I just want everybody to be safe this weekend.
Thank you, Troy.
Yep.
Again, a great message. We have a couple of other guests here today that are talking about some things that they're doing in the community. And when we talk about making our community a better place, it is often people in the community that have made the decision that they want to make a difference. And certainly Jennifer White and her organization has made a real difference in our community. And I can tell you that it has motivated others, including some in our internal organization, to make a difference. And so Jennifer White is going to share a little bit about human trafficking and what they've done with ICT SOS. And it looks like you've brought some friends, Jennifer, that's going to help you. So why don't I turn it over to you and your friends and let you share.
Thank you very much, Mayor Longwell. January has been designated Human Trafficking Awareness Month at both the state and national level. And last fall, ICT SOS launched a student advisory board that we call ICT HOPE, and that stands for Helping Overcome and Prevent Exploitation. The board is comprised of 22 South Central Kansas high school and college students, and I have 3 of those students with me today. I've got Brennan Norris from Andover Central High School, and Tony and Taylor Tompkins from Derby High School. This January, ICT HOPE is hosting a community-wide drive for items used to build Fresh Start bags for victims and survivors of trafficking and abuse. These bags provide clothing, hygiene, and comfort items, and the drive will run all month with drop-off locations around the city. We'll end with a volunteer event to assemble the bags for distribution through local direct service agencies, such as the Child Advocacy Center, the Exploited and Missing Child Unit, the Wichita Area Sexual Assault Center, and local hospitals. In addition to the drive, the students have created a 30-second public service announcement that will air on KSN all month. They've also produced a longer video for use in their schools and on social media. These videos, along with billboards throughout the city, share important information about trafficking and an appeal to report suspected activity to Crime Stoppers by calling 267-2111. The Wichita Police Department has also made this information available to our Spanish-speaking community by recreating a Spanish version of that 30-second video. The project is a collaborative effort of ICT HOPE, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Exploited and Missing Child Unit, Volunteer Kansas, Crime Stoppers, KSN, Miller's Cleaners, and Atomic Billboards. The items collected by the students will be collected in their schools, all of the local police substations, and all Miller's Dry Cleaners locations around the city, as well as our office at ICT SOS. For more information on the items needed, you can visit ictsos.org/hope and also find a list of all of the drop-off locations there as well. So thank you very much for having us this morning.
Thank you, Jennifer, thank you, and I appreciate your friends too to make the trek across town in some cases to be here. I can tell you that our community is a better and safer place because of people like Jennifer White willing to make a difference in our community. So thank you very much. I will be attending a U.S. Conference of Mayors meeting next week. Along with that, it's timed perfectly for the presidential inauguration, which is in the middle of our U.S. Conference of Mayors meetings. I will be in Washington, D.C. this next week, and so the new vice mayor will be thrown to the wolves immediately. So don't think you need to hold back at the press conference next week. Ask the difficult questions because she's been prepared to take them. And again, urge the community to show caution as we go through this weather event this weekend. Please be careful. Certainly, if it turns out, as some of the predictions have been forecasted, it can be a very dangerous situation for anybody traveling, whether you're traveling 2 blocks, 2 miles, or 200 miles. It can be a very difficult situation for anyone in this weather event this weekend. Please use caution. At that point in time, we'll open it up for any questions. Yes.
This may be a question for Alan. Can you tell us, as far as staffing for the city crews to handle the roads, are we talking about, like, are they on 12-hour shifts? Is everybody working overtime? Do we have everybody in or on standby?
Yeah, we'll have all 60 trucks out probably, and those will be on 12-hour shifts, and they'll be working 24/7 until we get through the event. So figure all 60 trucks day and night.
Alan.
Hey, Alan, on the pre-treatment of the streets with the brine, what does that get accomplished, and how far into a storm like this will that be effective?
The brine accumulates, so that's why we've been applying it ever since Monday. What it hopefully will do it will reduce the amount of ice and when the ice can actually form and adhere to the street, and so that's what its function is. One of the drawbacks of brine is if you get a heavy washing rain, it can wash that brine off the streets. But it's better to go ahead and put it down in case we don't get the washing rain, and then we get some benefit in terms of reducing the icing on the roads.
Well, again, appreciate you all being here, and have a safe weekend.